Last week in Michigan politics, Michigan playing host to the highest-ranking official in the land. We have the details on President Joe Biden's visit and what the latest polls are saying about his race for re-election. Plus, the state's top law enforcement official traveling to Ohio this week, trying to get a case involving a controversial oil and gas pipeline moved back to Michigan. What both sides of the fight over the future of Line 5 are saying. And the city of Grand Rapids making history, welcoming its first Asian American member of the city commission. What he says he plans to work on tackling in the job. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on your side rundown. Thanks for joining us. President Joe Biden was in Michigan last week as part of a larger trip across the Midwest to show up support in key swing states. We have details on the president's visit amid new poll numbers that could spell trouble for his campaign. President Joe Biden touching down in Saginaw Thursday, continuing a sweep of the all-important Midwest as he hopes to carry this battleground state in the November election, alongside states like Wisconsin, where Biden stopped the day before.
Sounds like hyperbole, but it's all in your hands. And you folks like you all across the country.
The latest Quinnipiac poll just released Thursday showed the president underwater with his job approval rating in Michigan and behind former President Donald Trump by 3 points in a head-to-head Michigan matchup. The president using the trip to resonate with Rust Belt voters.
No, I have a very different view than, as you know, than the opposition here, the guys are running against. I don't think we're a dying nation. I think we're a growing nation. I don't think we're behind.
But with a higher approval rating than the president's, Michigan governor and top Biden campaign surrogate Gretchen Whitmer shared her thoughts while visiting the west side of the state, a key region for this year's statewide elections and one that Biden has yet to visit this cycle.
Michigan's playing an outsized role in this presidential election, and so we're going to get a lot of attention. I know that when we hosted the vice president in Grand Rapids to talk about reproductive rights and the right to abortion, that was one more acknowledgement that this administration gets it and they value every person and they're going to show up in every community.
Some Republicans, however, downplaying the president's visit. In a statement, former U.S. Congressman Mike Rogers, vying for the state's open U.S. Senate seat, said in part, quote, Biden's visit today will do nothing to stop the pain his and Slotkin's policies have inflicted on Michigan families who simply cannot afford 4 to 6 more years of their policies. And following the president's visit, we took a deeper dive into the numbers of that poll out from Quinnipiac last week. We break down the highlights. Well, this survey really has telling results for both major parties and insight on some top issues as well. Let's take a look first at the broader picture. A majority of voters in this survey say they do not have a favorable view of either of these two major party candidates in this race, but that view is slightly more unfavorable for President Biden. When you take a look at his handling of the job right now, voters are similarly disapproving of how he's doing overall and on several key issues. His handling of the war in Ukraine, the economy, as well as what's happening at the southern border, the Israel-Hamas war. All of those areas, the majority said in this survey, they disapprove of how he's handling those. Now, this poll also has something to say about his top Michigan surrogate, Governor Whitmer, who has very different approval ratings right now. She is above water, above 50%. The majority says they approve of how she is doing in her job right now. While she's denied any thought up until this point of making a presidential run in the future, she said she's focused on her current job, but that hasn't, of course, stopped speculation. Popular governor in a key swing state, her approval rating is up there. Majority of these voters approve of her. Among Democrats, especially nearly 80% say they want to see her make a presidential run in the future, those surveyed. But this is a big but here. The general electorate, while they do approve of her, the majority in this survey, the majority also says 51% no, they do not want her running for president. They don't want to see that. Now, there were also some top issues as well for a lot of people that were surveyed. Let's take a look at one of the ones, some of the ones that seem to be calling cards for the major parties right now. For Democrats, that's largely been abortion rights, reproductive options. In this survey, voters say 66%, large majority, it should be legal in all or most most cases. For Republicans, they've been trying to hammer Biden's handling of immigration and the economy. In this survey, people agree with them there. 65% say the economy is not good right now, poor in some cases, and 47% say it's getting worse. But with most Republicans approving of Trump, most Democrats approving of Biden in this survey, the key voters here are going to be independents. Where do Biden and Trump fare with them in terms of favorability? The majority of independents here said they do not have a favorable view of either of these candidates, but in a two-way race, they were asked by Quinnipiac, you got to pick one or the other in this situation. Trump has a slight edge among independents, but if these different results really suggest anything, it's that you need independents if you want to win Michigan. And one official who was out of state this week, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. She was in Cincinnati Thursday arguing to have the case involving Enbridge's controversial Line 5 pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac moved back to state court. We have input from both sides.
Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel in Cincinnati Thursday as her team argued in court over the future of her nearly 5-year-old lawsuit against Canadian company Enbridge and its controversial oil and gas pipeline known as Line 5.
We feel very confident. We have the facts on our side, we have the law on our side, and we're very hopeful that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals will rule in our favor today.
Nessel aiming to have her lawsuit sent back to state court after Enbridge successfully had it moved to the federal level in 2021. Given that things were already in motion on the state level, she said, Nessel believes the switch sets the case back and grows the risks she feels Line 5 poses to her state.
Every day that goes by is another day that we're putting our natural resources and our economy at grave risk in the state of Michigan. And so we want to get back to state court. We want to go back to where we left off and have some, very significant rulings that were on the table and hopefully get some resolution to this case.
Back in Grand Rapids, activists rallied in support of Nessel's plea.
I believe the Attorney General can win, especially if the people become involved. She's representing the people for the Great Lakes, so we need people to tune in and get involved and stand with us.
When reached for comment on Thursday's hearing, an Enbridge spokesperson provided a statement asserting the safety of their work and saying in part, quote, "We are confident that ultimately the Sixth Circuit Court will agree with the lower court's decisions from August 2022 and November 2021 that this dispute, which has generated a U.S. foreign policy controversy, properly belongs in federal court."
The Republican National Committee is suing Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. The lawsuit cites the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which requires states to maintain clean and accurate voter registration rolls. The lawsuit alleges that at least 53 of Michigan's counties have more active registered voters than they do adults in their populations. The lawsuit demands Benson take immediate steps to purge excess voters. Prior to the lawsuit, Benson was asked about the accuracy of the state's voter rolls during an early voting event in February.
So we take very seriously our responsibility to ensure the accuracy of our voter registration rolls, and we do everything in alignment with the federal protections under the National Voter Registration Act. So we're going to continue to do that work.
The Michigan Voter Information Center currently lists the number of registered Michigan voters as 8.28 million. The Department of State lists over 550,000 inactive voter registrations slated for cancellation in 2025 and another 94,000 slated for 2027. Earlier this month, a similar suit was dismissed after being filed by an out-of-state conservative legal group. In Grand Rapids, the annual Cesar Chavez Justice March was held to honor the civil rights leader and his efforts to bring about nonviolent social change. The main focus of this year's march was to push for the passage of the Drive Safe bills. Organizers say this change would be a big benefit to the people and the state of Michigan. Chavez was a champion of social justice reforms. He helped to organize the United Farm Workers of America, which he led for more than 30 years. The Drive Safe bills would give the opportunity and the legal right to people of all immigration status to get a legal license. The package of bills stalled last year in the state legislature despite efforts to get them passed by supporters.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to vote or become American citizens because they have a license to drive. It means that they're going to be able to continue working, and that's what they do for us here in the United States.
Supporters of the bill say not only would it help make our roads safer, but also driver's license registration fees would generate a lot of revenue for the state. The city of Grand Rapids has a new 3rd Ward commissioner who is also the city's first Asian American to serve as a Grand Rapids City Commissioner. Bing Goey replaces previous 3rd Ward Commissioner Nathaniel Moody, who stepped down earlier this year. Goey is the owner of Eastern Floral and the Goey Center, an event venue in Grand Rapids. City Mayor Rosalind Bliss praised Goey's experience and his heart for service before bringing the vote before the commission. Goey says that while he is honored, he is ready to get to work.
There's going to be challenges that I will have to look at and study and regarding other issues, issues like affordable housing, issues like safety, and a varied amount of other challenges that we face. But I also look at the 3rd Ward as a ward that has many assets and many opportunities.
The application and interview process took 2 months. The city was set to formally affirm the appointment and swear in Goey this week. Car crash survivors and members of the Home Care and Hospice Association from across the state are once again urging lawmakers in Lansing to pass the bills they say will correct the unintended consequences of the state's no-fault auto reforms in 2019 that were meant to save drivers money. 13 on Your Side's Jeremiah Brown spoke with some of those impacted here in West Michigan.
After the state's no-fault auto insurance was reformed, accident survivors left with debilitating injuries saw 45% pay cuts for home caregivers and reimbursement for family caregivers capped at 56 hours a week.
The cut reimbursement by an amount that makes access to the coverage inaccessible. In other words, you cannot get home care services for those who are in dire need of having that because of their catastrophic injury.
In July 2023, the state Supreme Court ruled in support of a case that restored coverage for those injured before 2019, but those injured after say they are struggling for the same care.
I'm just getting told that no matter what my doctor says, it doesn't really matter. It matters what the insurance company says that they want to do for me.
Jenna Worthy was left injured after an accident in July 2019 and now uses a wheelchair.
I can't do physical therapy anymore. My caregiver pay rate is limited, so companies aren't able to afford any type of overtime.
She says she didn't have these issues before the reform.
I've had on days where there's been nobody to take care of me, like to help me out, and I mean, I literally can't even open food items to feed myself. You know, I mean, I have to baby-proof my house for my kid, but unfortunately that baby-proofs it for me too.
A Grand Rapids-based care company says many home care providers had to close their doors. Supporters of Bills 530 and 531 say it will reestablish a reasonable fee schedule to providers, allowing them to hire caregivers necessary for injured survivors, many of whom need 24/7 care.
I'd like to see them, provide a reasonable rate to provide the care for these clients that are literally stuck in the hospitals right now or these skilled nursing facilities to trying to get home.
Regarding the proposed legislation, the Insurance Alliance of Michigan says it would raise costs for Michigan drivers by $1.2 billion a year and says the Department of Insurance and Financial Services opposes the legislation, saying it is an overhaul of key cost-saving measures.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.